So we've talked about kind of positive behaviours, but I suppose one of the things you were talking about was falling back on kind of bad habits and bad patterns of behaviour.
Yeah,
I think would it be useful to explore that?
Yeah, and there are a number of behaviours or reactions which are not common, but they occur often with individuals who are suffering mental health challenges. We've spoken about the fact that sometimes being in a carer role is quite an isolating one. So there tends often to be not a lot of monitoring of the carer's behaviour. Sometimes there is, and sometimes it's by the person being cared for or other members of the family, but sometimes it is just two people, and one of those persons has time on their own when their behaviour is not monitored. And so to some extent we have to be able to monitor our own behaviour. So it's good just to have a conversation about that. Some of the key ones which we find are possible, likely to happen in some cases, is obviously drinking too much. We've spoken about that. Alcohol is relatively cheap. It can be consumed away from the public glare. Most people do drink, most adults do drink in this country, and so it's not a brand new activity, it's the continuation of an existing one. Some people do find it relaxing, and also there's a psychological element of associating having a drink with a generally pleasant atmosphere or situation. So there's kind of the connotations as well, but quite apart from the impact on one's physical health, alcohol is a depressant, and it does lead to poor judgment. Some very famous research many years ago now around people carrying out particular tasks, and to some extent their motor skills at lower levels of alcohol were not significantly damaged, but their judgment was. So they would take on more and more challenging motor tasks and fail at them, whereas people who hadn't been drinking didn't try the more difficult. Didn't try those tasks because they knew they were just far too difficult. But when the person who'd been drinking tried the same tasks as those chosen by the sober people, they performed almost as well, which is dangerous because we think, I'm fine, I can do. It's not your motor skills that are affected at low levels; it's your judgment.
And I think we were talking earlier about things like different aspects around drinking. So sort of, drinking alone, drinking earlier in the day, feeling the need to have a drink rather than just so there can be lots of sort of warning behaviours, and friends and family saying, well, actually, we're a little concerned about this.
Absolutely. One of the things which is common at the moment, particularly around young people, is that they drink the night before, maybe too much, and go to the gym the next morning. And that will have a very quick impact on any hangover. But of course the impact on their body hasn't changed. It's just that it gets you over the hangover very quickly. And of course the other problem with drinking is that it is done with other people, and there can be a kind of increasing consumption of alcohol where the carer and the person being cared for, it depends on the situation obviously, both start drinking too much, and it's neither is going to call the other out because they're both drinking the same. So you've got to watch that, and moderation is always possible. One of the things that people who drink too much say is that, but I need to drink, and if I didn't have it, I would not be able to face the day because I would nothing to look forward to, and all. They say, well, actually, will you try it a little bit for me? And actually, almost, not every time, but almost always the person says, actually, I was able to cope with not having a drink or just having one drink much better than I thought I was going to do. So there's that. Another area is eating and overeating. Not eating enough is also an issue. Not getting the right balanced diet can be an issue. But eating too much can be difficult too. And sometimes, for some people, eating too much makes them feel guilty and has an impact on their sense of self-esteem and body image and so on. And this isn't, it's a risky behaviour in as much as it can be a risk to one's mental health. If you have a value system connected to body shape, body size, or a value system that's linked to what a person should eat or shouldn't eat, and you violate that in your mind because of the pressures that are on you, then it's a risk to your mental health, because you will see yourself falling short of who you think you should be. So a very complex area, and in extreme circumstances it is rare. Some carers, some young male and female, but statistically mostly female carers, do go through a period of anorexia and through what's labelled as bulimia, and that can be a sign of some severe pressure on that individual. It's often part of a system of dysfunction within the family rather than that individual in isolation. But if you are connected to a young carer and you see evidence of that, it is something that is worth having a conversation about. So there's that. Other aspects of drugs, very often, well, not very often, but there is a risk sometimes that an individual finishes up taking drugs, not an overdose as such, but a tranquilizer, and say, well, a doctor said just to take one a day, but actually today's been a dreadful day, I'm going to take two. It won't kill me. But there are risks about taking medication the wrong way, and that has to be monitored. But also illicit drugs. Many people use cannabis for medical purposes, and it's becoming legal in various parts of the world and in different ways in current services. But it is easy to abuse. It can, for some individuals, lead to a lot of symptoms and experiences which the individual finds distressing. And so that has to be carefully dealt with.
And pain medication, so it can be easy for those to be abused, and a lot of them can form very addictive patterns of behaviour.
Absolutely. And so there's a set of issues around the pros and cons and the dangers and risks about those behaviours, but just standing back, they can be signs that the individual carer, in this case, is struggling to cope with being a carer. And whether they are abusing alcohol or abusing painkillers or tranquilizers or other drugs, although that has to be managed and dealt with, it's also a chance for the person to think, hang on, why am I drinking so much? Well, I'm not coping with the caring. Are there other things I can do? There are other behaviours which, when people are under pressure, they finish up doing in spite of their best judgment, really, or the judgment they would have if they were feeling better. Lot of what you might call reckless or risky behaviour in terms of driving, for example. An individual who is frustrated by care services, frustrated by what they perceive to be them not being able to help someone they love, or they're just frustrated by the person being cared for, and they shouldn't feel guilty, but they get angry with the situation. And sometimes, especially for men, but not just men, that manifests itself in a certain attitude towards driving. Now that can be addressed and dealt with, but obviously getting angry when you're driving makes you a worse driver and you're more likely to have an accident. So if you see yourself doing that, becoming angry in the car, then you do need to step back and take some action around that.
Self-harming is something I've come across. Particularly it can be for female carers, but certainly not exclusively, where people use that as a way of trying to relieve their stress and anxiety, but can end up causing real problems.
Definitely. And in cases, not just young people, but often younger women, as you say, if they have a history of self-harm prior to a stress event, prior to this stress event, then they are more likely to do it again. And there are all kinds of ways where they can keep that hidden to some extent. But clearly it is isn't a warning sign, it is a bad thing in itself. It's very, very serious and has to be addressed. And if you find yourself self-harming, you do need to seek care immediately. That is just the case. Other aspects of risky ways of managing mental health challenges include, but not limited to, aspects like gambling. Particularly men, but not just men, and women particularly now are being targeted by online gambling companies because it's one of the few parts of the market left. Credit is far too easy to get for gambling. That's being changed now. Again, it's something which many people do at different times of the year, Grand National or the lottery, so it's an extension of that. And then you get to the turning point where you're chasing losses, trying to recover the money. And there's a double whammy there because there's guilt about using money that you could be using for the caring that you're using in gambling. So gambling is again, it's invisible. People do it at night on their phone or on a computer, and no one else knows they're doing it. And so it's they're not called out on it, but it is a warning signal about losing the money is a bad thing, but it's a warning signal about not coping. And there's also increasing research now on addictive shopping. Now shopping is shopping, and people do it all the time, and literally billions of pounds of marketing globally goes into making us buy stuff online. It can be a convenience, and for people who have got 360-degree care responsibilities, online shopping is a boon. Things can be sorted out very quickly, but there is a subgroup of people who, particularly when they're depressed, and in particular people suffer from bipolar depression when they're in the manic stage. Again, not just women, but often statistically more likely to be females go through a binge, they describe it as themselves, of shopping, buying things they don't need, never wanted, will never use, and they know that when they do it. It's just the rush that they had when they bought things now and again, having as a treat, and they're trying to recapture that to some extent, but it is a habit again. It's a distracting activity, and of course as soon as they do it, they know it's pointless, and many of the things that people buy when they are addicted to I don't like the term addicted to shopping, but it has many of the features of that. The things never get opened. They never get opened. Now you can send stuff back, but people don't always do that either. But again, it's the thing about, I've earned this new phone, or I've earned this new dress, or I've earned that new tie, because I'm under a lot of pressure. I'm not able to get out as much as I used to. I'm not able to go and watch my football team as much as I used to. I'm only working part-time now. I'm not meeting as many people. I deserve a little treat, and that's all true. But it's the gradual increment towards spending more and more on shopping, and it's a habit, and there's not thinking going into it. So if a person is a carer and find themselves doing more of that, it is a sign that things aren't working, and you do need to look at other aspects.
And I suppose, like a number of the behaviours we were talking about, it might be that they've never exhibited those behaviours before, and so the fact they're starting to do them may be a warning sign, or maybe they've had patterns of behaviour that they moved away from, that they're then relapsing back into. And again, these can be useful warning signs for yourself. You may notice them, or it may be your friends and family notice them, say, look, we're a bit worried about this, or we're a bit worried about that. So.
Indeed. And the final thing I would say around all of this is nothing is irrecoverable. One of the key things for individuals engaging in these behaviours is, they have a sense of, well, I can't change it. I don't like this, but I don't see how I can change. And in fact, stopping the behaviour in a managed way is possible, and you can go from engaging in unhelpful behaviours that are damaging to you, damaging to your mental health, damaging to your bank account, and maybe damaging to the person you're caring for. You can get from there to a more manageable, sustainable form of engagement, or complete abstinence, depending on what's appropriate, much, much quicker than people really think. So it is worth getting help, because the help can be quick, and it can be really effective, and it can be life-changing.
I hope you found this course helpful. At FCC, we're committed to providing courses and training for unpaid carers, and these courses are completely free. If you found this helpful, you could support our work in 3 ways. Please recommend it to any friends or people that you know that will benefit from the courses. Please consider sharing it on social media. And if you can, please consider donating. There are buttons on the website where you can donate £1, £2, £5, and every pound that you donate will make a huge difference by helping us make more and more care courses completely free to carers. Thank you very much.